this is what I'm saying. I think this is emblematic of their whole downfall.
Yeah, possibly.
It's this sort of like, it's the same sort of thing. It's just a replay of what they ended up doing with the CD32X and then Saturn, where they're like they make this guy make the 32X and then start developing the Saturn in secret.
Holy crap.
Right? It's the same thing. They make Sega of America make the 32X and then secretly develop their own thing that they release just right after it. It's the exact same mistake.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there was a secret happening, but yeah, it was.
No, it was a secret. It really was. They, I mean, I don't know for how long, but the Sega of America was like, hey, I think it's a really bad idea to release a 32-bit system and then release another release a 32-bit add-on and then release a 32-bit system. And they were like, yeah, you're probably right. We shouldn't release two 32-bit things like right in a row. And then you should probably go make the 32X. And so Sega of America made the 32X.
No, wait, what do you mean? They didn't make it.
They designed it.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in Console Wars a part where like the Sega of America president, it goes to like Sega of Japan and is shown the 32X and is like, we're
right. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. So this is just my memory of the history of this, but they're like, we should do the 32X.
Yeah.
And then they sort of give that project to Sega of America when they're like, hey, we also want to develop a 32-bit system.
Sega of America...
Like, no, that doesn't make much sense to release two 32-bit systems in a row.
Yeah, no, Sega of America was more like almost just a marketing arm, so they didn't develop anything. So when they say that they were like given the 32X to sell, that's it just like in a marketing sense. Yeah, no, I know.
Well, regardless,
I thought I was the expert on here. Why are you not deferring to me?
Regardless, I believe that the way that the story goes is that
I guess this is for going this way.
As far as I know, the way the story goes is that America comes out of it all being like, okay, so we agree not to do two 32-bit systems back to back. And Sega of Japan goes, yes, we agree. And then they just went and did it anyway. And at some point, Sega of America learns that they're making the Saturn that they had said that they weren't going to do. That's my memory.
I think it was some,
which is why then the 32X is not supported, because Sega of Japan like made everyone develop for the Saturn, despite the fact that they were trying to sell the 32X at the time.
I think this is basically true. Other than just that, like Sega of America, like everyone knew that the Saturn had to be made and released at some point. Wow,
they're very generous.
That might have even
very generous
been slowdown related or something.
Well, it would also slow down the bubble.
Yeah. I think again, not that like Console Wars definitely has to be the final say on all Sega history stuff, but I think in that
this
book,
is a book
like,
I haven't read, so I don't know anything about Console Wars, because that's what you've told me.
I think it's something to the extent that like, of course Sega's gonna make a new disc-based 32-bit system because that's what everyone's doing, or at least that they know that's what Sony's doing, and they want to like go up against them. I think that's why Sega of America is like, what the hell is this 32-bit cartridge add-on thing? Don't sell this. Just wait and put out the Saturn. Don't try to split the market and make people choose between upgrading and buying a Saturn.
No, that's totally true.
Yeah.
That Sega of America wanted to do the Saturn, and then they were like, no, we have to do 32X. So they do the 32X, and then they're like, okay, just one, and then no, it's two. So like they ended up weirdly getting what they wanted, but in the worst possible way. That's my it's a strange history. Because it's really two halves of the same company that are arguing and putting out weird, disjointed information about stuff.
But what the hell was it? The 32X was Project Mars. So there's your Saturn connection, Saturn and Mars. And there was also going to be the Sega Neptune, which was going to be a Genesis CD and 32X all-in-one console. That never ended up happening.
Poor Sega, like, couldn't get their heads out of the arcade.
Yeah, I think
maybe the guys from Sega of Japan should have gone to America to see what Americans in 1996 thought about arcades, which was like not much.
Maybe that was just the development talent that they had. I don't know.
I think it's like, it just seems like this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is our history. This sells really well in Japan. This does really well in Japan. We're a Japanese company and we think about a Japanese market. And I think that Nintendo is able to do.
Yeah, but even then, I think that is
but
primarily Sega of Japan's perspective on all that.
Right, that's
obviously.
what I mean. Yeah, that's what. But like Nintendo has the same thing of like, we make games for a Japanese market, but they don't have the same history of being tied to arcades. And then I think Sony does a better job of being like, hey, did you guys know that there's like 6 billion people that don't live in Japan who also buy video games? Whoa. Hey, why don't you try and run this like a racetrack, see what happens?
I forgot about the bumpers on the sides. I mean, obviously, it does not help to have bumpers on the sides of the track. Fuck. Oh.
Nathan said, what do you mean these Americans can't take a train to the arcade?
I mean, the thing was, I think Americans still thought they really liked arcades back in the 90s.
I know, but I think to a Japanese executive at Sega, I think it would be, the difference would be obvious.
Yeah, but it's confusing because, you know, like, the story that Console Wars tells is kind of like the executives, or at least I think the president of Sega, was like really on Sega of America's side, and I think there was a lot of resentment at Sega of Japan that they felt like they were not receiving like the favor that they deserved and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
And that supposedly, I guess,
it's easy to be on Sega of America's side when they're making you boatloads of money.
Yeah, they were
how many people are in America.
Yeah,
it's not hard to understand.
And also, I mean, I think Sega of America was more prominent, but there was also Sega of Europe, or I don't know how. I can't tell you who it was that was selling Sega stuff in Europe, but I know that it was selling very well.
Yeah.
So it was like the Japanese market was like the worst performing Sega market at the time.
Yeah.
And that's why it's a little crazy, the idea that like that's the people that get primary control, it seems like, over the Saturn and its, you know, library.
Hey, but we got Panzer Dragoon out of it.
Oh, thank God. We got Nights into Dreams, so it all worked out.
Hey, I wasn't being sarcastic. Kyle's being sarcastic.
Yeah, I was being sarcastic.
I think the Panzer Dragoon saga is unbelievable. It's really good.
Hey, we got Sonic Adventure.
Hey, we did get Sonic Adventure.
Sonic Adventure. I can't say what Sonic Adventure would have been like if Sega of America had been the one leading Sega during the Saturn era, but I can tell you it would have been a different game.
In a just world, the Dreamcast would have saved Sega.
True.
And it deserves to.
It deserves to.
It deserves to. When you really go back and you
Saturn
look at
wasn't even that bad, but there was just no room for failure. It was
barely worse than the PS1. It is worse than the PS1,
but barely.
But barely. And it did have one huge edge, which was those RAM cars, which, you know, shitty add-on, whatever. But the PS1 and the Saturn were so hamstrung by the tiny RAM.
Yeah. And just pretty for, you know, underpowered graphical tech.
The difference between the PS1 and the Dreamcast is night and day.
I know.
It's so much bigger than the difference between the Dreamcast and the PS2.
Yeah.
When you look at those games, when you look at the Dreamcast and then compare it to the PS2, at the time it was like people were like, "Oh, the difference between these two things killed the Dreamcast."
Yeah.
But looking back from the eye of now, these are almost the same. They are not meaningfully different to me.
No, at least not in a way that like PS2 developers were able to unlock out of the PS2 for the first few years of its life.
Yeah.
Where like the reason people remember the Dreamcast so fondly, I mean, obviously it needed to have the games to get that.
Yeah.
But the real reason is that like it was the very first console where the graphical power was not holding back the console.
Right. Yes.
You know, they were not like meaningfully limited. You know, I think the PS2 was, or the PS1 was like, you knew it was limited. So I think developers would go in with a limited scope in mind. And then even then they'd have to like cut back from there.
Right. It's really that RAM problem. Like what happened? I can't believe this is something that took me so long to realize. Like what happens when you can fit 700 megabytes on a disc, but only 2 megabytes of RAM? Like
you get a lot of CD quality audio and pre-rendered FMV.
Yeah. Like what do you even do with that much storage?
I know. Like the answer. Oh, I guess the answer is you make a Sonic game where the levels are huge and there's 4 versions of every level. Or
yes,
you know. Like,
yeah.
And I think Console Wars, the book makes a pretty convincing case because it felt like reading it felt like being reminded more than being convinced. It was like makes a really convincing case that like, you know, Sega kind of ruled the world at the time.
Did.
Like they were kicking ass, and the Sega CD and the 32, well, maybe more the CD than the 32X, but like they make the case that like the Sega CD was like a massive hit that like sold tons of units and games, and it's only now kind of remembered as a weird curiosity that, you know, presumably failed.
Well, there's something, you know, people kind of talk shit about.
It's a clever boss fight. The one thing about CD, I'll give it, very clever boss fights, kind of, they're more in the vein of Sonic 1, but they all have, like, some pretty clever gimmicks.
The people look back on the 90s and the add-ons and rope all like the Nintendo I can't even remember what it's called.
The N64?
Hey, the thing froze.
All right, we're back recording again.
We're back recording again. We're just gonna do this, finish this boss fight, and then you're getting out of here, I believe.
Yep. And just remembered we accidentally skipped over Spinball. So we're gonna have to go back and record that.
Do that, yeah.
And I think that says so much. So much about Spinball that we just straight up forgot.
For some reason you've had a hard time remembering which games come in which order.
Oh, they all came out so fast.
They did come out so fast. It was a blitz.
Meaningfully, these games came into existence at the same time.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, you know, you're saying, oh, it's crazy to think all these Sonic games were like back to back year over year. Dude, it's crazy to think like the first 3 Ratchet and Clanks and Jack and Daxters were all back to back year over year. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I play those games and they've got some huge rough edges, and I'm like,
yeah,
hey,
maybe
guys,
you should have waited a little bit.
Maybe you should have waited
these.
a tiny bit. Seriously. Really? Really?
Hey, how come Robotnik sounds like this?
Well, because when he can sound like anything, you want him to sound like the most terrifying thing possible.
I think the most terrifying thing possible is the open ocean. He should sound like the open ocean.
Wow.
Can a real one, can you kill him during this trip? Like if you're really awesome?
I don't think this even counts towards hurting him. Yeah, see.
Oh, okay.
Oh, geez. Got the thing going. slow down. You know, I have to say, the last time, you know how the CD wouldn't load properly at the beginning here?
Yes.
The last time, and really the only time I played through this game on this Sega CD, I think it was just loading way worse. And so every time I like had to get a new music track or something, it took like many seconds to load. And I was like, oh, this game, this is like really rough and shitty. And I think it's just not actually showing up that way this time, luckily.
That's good.
I remember the load times being like absurd, but they're really not.
You mean,
anything.
wait, sorry, was this the last time you played on the actual Sega CD?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh, I wonder why.
It was like every load time was like 2 or 3 times what it is now. I think it was the laser is just
yeah, the bad laser. You just got a bad laser in there. Or it was dusty. I mean, the game, all it took was one blow, right?
Maybe it's a coincidence.
So what, he takes one hit, but you've got to get all the...
He fucking better take one hit, dude.
You've got to get all these air bubbles first? You better take one hit. Maybe he takes 2 hits. Because you already sort of broke him down. That's the thing, is that you already broke him down.
True.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Suck on that, Eggman.
Get out of here. Go suck on an egg, man.
Go suck. Hey, we should call him that.
Oh my God, he's the Eggman, because he sucks eggs so bad. Flowers are still wavy, even though they're not underwater.
They're just happy.
Okay, I think.
It's time to save the game.
Oh, here's a load time. I guess it is loading. I take back everything I said. That was
Unacceptable.
Immeasurably long. I guess I'm gonna hit reset.
Why?
Wait, you know what? Let's Google. What if it only saves when you get a game over or something? You know those like insane old games.
How to save Sonic CD? No. Oh, how do I save and load my data for Sonic CD? Oh, this person's playing on a GameCube. Fuck. I think it just might save automatically, and you just have to hit continue game.
I think so. We'll find out a hit reset. What happens on a hit reset?
Please wait.
Waiting. Loading. Okay. So far, this is all good.
Wow, he shot that right out of his little finger.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was one of Sonic's super stunts.
Ejaculates sparkles all over the Sega logo.
Super sparkles. Continue. There you go. Is there anything better than Sonic Boom?
No. Literally no.
It is the best thing about this game.
They actually should have stopped at
Perfect.
Sonic CD. Awesome.
It worked.
All right.
Technology. We love it.
All right. Thank you for watching.
The ineffable march of progress.
Yes. Be back again with Sonic CD
and Sonic Spinball.